So everyone, hello, good afternoon. I'm Coco from the blog, and I'm very honored to be here today. And I want to introduce my guest. Do you want to come to stage? We're just waiting for Eddie to come.
Eddie here.
Okay. Yeah, please grab a seat. Okay, so today we're going to talk about payments, right, and also settlement. So within the last 50 years, the traditional banks has been using what we call the legacy rails, right, using 3 layers of payments and settlement and custody on messaging, clearing, and the settlement. But now we're really at the new era of payments, and we're doing a lot of things about stablecoin. And we require something called automatic settlement, right? And everything has to be instant. It has to be 24/7. This is what the blockchain has brought to the traditional finance. And I believe right now everybody's seeing more institutional clients coming into the industry, right? And I feel there's so much institutional players right now, and the things has been gone to so hard and so high standard as ever, right? It seems like decentralization has been realized in a very centralized manner somehow. But yeah, so I'm very eager to hear more about what you do, your layers, your products, and then the things that you're passionate about stablecoins and payments. And also we'll be touching about a little bit on AI as well. But before everything, I want everyone to say hi to today's audience, right? It's an afternoon, so make sure that you say something exciting. We'll start from Brian.
Sure. Thanks for having me today. Excited to have this conversation. I would start off, my name is Brian Mehler. I'm the CEO of Stable. Stable is a layer 1 blockchain that's focused on making payments effective and efficient and cost-friendly. With that, I think right now, a lot of people here have invested in a cryptocurrency, but don't necessarily use it on a daily basis. That's usually a combination of fees or complexity, and really what happens when you're trying to use crypto for real use cases, there's a lot of asterisks, and the more you start using it, the more those asterisks get revealed, where you have to have a second gas token, you have to have a certain wallet, you have to be on a certain chain, and all those things make it not really attractive or not really something that people are migrating towards. So as stablecoins became what a lot call the killer app for blockchain, there's still a lot of complications on the network or on the usage that our team at Stable is looking to solve and remove some of those to make it the actual product that people hope it to be. So excited for today, and thank you again.
Thank you, Brian. I have Natalie.
Thanks. Hey everyone, my name is Nellie. I lead payments BD at Monet. So I joined Monet by way of Portal, which is a stablecoin wallet as a service startup, which Monet acquired in August of last year. And then prior to that, I was at Revolut in New York. So Monet is a layer 1 chain that uses parallel execution and async input-output to achieve 10,000 TPS sub-seconds finality and also sub-cent fees. Very similarly, we're very focused on payments as a killer use case. And yeah, I'm happy to chat a lot more about the AI agentic payments work that we're currently working on at Monet.
Great. Welcome. Hi, Matt.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. This is Matt at Tokay. I've been in crypto since 2013. Started off as a Bitcoin miner with custom-built ASIC machines. And later co-founded a company called Bitcoinist, which is a media, and then moved on to Bitcoin.com along with Roger Ver. And then really just got myself into the rabbit hole of building Telegram trading bots with Altcoinist, and currently working on Opcat Labs. It is a very, very interesting project because for anyone who's been around when Bitcoin started, they all know that Satoshi put quite a few things into the Bitcoin protocol code, along with the big blocks. But he actually put these 10 lines of code, which is called Opcat, which, believe it or not, makes Bitcoin programmable, just as programmable that Ethereum is today. And so we are building Opcat. It's a layer 2 infrastructure for Bitcoin with the aspiration that, and of course lobbying for the Bitcoin core developers and for the industry, along with the miners and the node operators, to accept this Bitcoin implementation protocol of OPCAT. And very happy to work on this project because I believe that Bitcoin is an asset class that's a multi-trillion dollar and is just sitting there idle. So we would want to make it more useful. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So my name's Eddie. Meet another OG, I guess. I joined a little bit later. I joined crypto around 2017-ish, before I was banker. And then I realized that things are changing, things are moving. And I still remember that the first day that I see the white paper of Bitcoin, right? So it's a literally peer-to-peer payment system. But look at now, right? So I don't think crypto payment is at that stage of adoption yet as Satoshi's vision. And that's why we created AEON. What we are is a settlement layer. We're a middleware that connects crypto liquidity from all the stablecoins and then to the real merchant use cases. I mean, like literally buying coffee, buying pizzas, or booking airplane ticket, all that sort of things. We are probably the largest real-life merchant settlement layer these days. We work with OKX, Bybit, BigGad, all the exchange, you name it, right? So we handle probably 80% of all the QR code payment these days for them. Before I created this project, I was at Binance, Fiat, and I was working for Chainlink at the capital market related initiatives as well. That's how I explore that there's a lot of opportunity these days. I'm happy to be invited here and then to talk about crypto payment and also, I guess, agentic commerce, which is the next thing.
Yeah, I'm very excited because today we really have a great panelist to be here and tell us all the really forefronts of information of payments, and they deal with those things every single day, right? And right now, actually, we're into this like AI stage, right? Of like everything is so agentic, right? Like open clouds, like multiple, they change it every day, their names, right? It used to be like cloud bolts, right? And they just constantly change them. Now confused like what they're called actually. But for now, we're moving to this agentic economy. What is like the biggest like challenge you think when you're like building your work and thinking about this as a background of an AI agentic economy? What is the biggest challenge that you face when you're building this infrastructure? Anyone want to answer this?
Sure. So is everyone here familiar with X402? So just to recap, like X402 was the recent open payment protocol that was released by Coinbase. It's an HTTP native way of sending payments on the internet. So instead of getting like a 404 error on your website, you might get like 402 payment required. And then there's a whole just HTTP native way of essentially settling payments on chain after that after that is shown. And so I think one of the biggest challenges right now is that with agentic payments, it really unlocks payments at the rate of data. So currently in our global economy, APIs consume maybe like trillions of requests per second. If you look at traditional payments today, Visa processes in real time up to like 4,000 payments per second at its peak, and on average about 2,000 payments per second. Banks obviously a lot lower than that. In the US, ACH notoriously takes like 2 days to settle. And so with agentic payments, you now have a good problem where you're essentially solving for agents to send requests across the internet at the rate of potentially like thousands or even millions per second. And so systems need to be changed in order to meet that performance throughput. And so we have, like layer 1 blockchains like Monet or even payment-focused blockchains that are now solving for this issue, whereby we want to solve for high throughput, low latency, and low fees. And at the same time, we also want to foster an ecosystem whereby developers can actually develop agents with the support that they need. So Monet launched a AI agent hackathon over the weekend in Shenzhen, where we encourage people to create agents, anything between human to AI interaction and AI to AI interaction. And so I think building the ecosystem and obviously the infra is actually extremely important to meet the new problems that AI agentic payments create today.
Yeah. Do you want to?
Yeah, thank you, Nellie. So I believe what you guys are doing, and eventually what many of the people who are working in this industry are doing, is extremely important. So I always like to dumb it down a little bit for for the people, because when I started in crypto, and as a matter of fact, I still believe that most of the people don't even understand like how this thing works, right? Just like how people don't understand how their credit card works, how banking system works, and as a matter of fact, like there's 4 billion people that are actually excluded from the banking system. And so people should actually not really know how these systems work, and as a matter of fact, they don't really care how this system works. I believe that our job as builders is to basically build the infrastructure so that the users are able to be a participant in that infrastructure, and they are able to use it, right? Just like you use it your credit card. You don't need to know how to use it. So I think the future is very bright, and it's still ahead of us. But we have to build the killer apps for these users to be able to use these these agents on the first hand, and then those agentic payments, right? But in a way that it is very safe for them, it's very secure for them, and also very easy for them. And so, many people here work towards that, and I find it, fascinating in terms of like the speed of the technology that's moving ahead.
Yeah, also thanks Nellie as well, I guess, for bringing up X42, because as AEON, we're actually one of the launching partner with Coinbase developer platform for X42. We support multiple chains, so probably we will also support Monad and Stables in the near future. Currently, we host the largest X42 facilitator on BNB chain these days, and then now expanding to other chains. But anyway, I think the new trend of agentic commerce, when we talk about it, it's the whole I guess time frame is even bigger than what we'll talk about, because we work with real life merchants, right? So like the real merchants, and I feel like the biggest change is that people are changing from using an interface on the internet to agent. What that means is that if you order food, if you do something with the app or a web page, it's the Web 2 style. On the Web 3 style or on the agentic commerce, you only evolve with one thing, your agent, be it your persistent, your assistant, your whatsoever. And all the commercial activities will only evolve from that agent as the single touch point or the interface. So I think that's the most critical thing that's going to bring the changes to all the commercial world, I would say, in the agentic commerce sense. So that's why, as payment company, I think this is just a biggest opportunity of the history for the change. Yeah.
So you're not just only focused on the merchant, but also focusing on how people can use it on a day-to-day basis, and to kind of smooth out that process of payment, right?
Exactly. So if you look at it, people ask ChatGPT, ask Gemini, hey, how can I book a ticket, or how can I do something? You want to actually finish the task, right?
Definitely.
So the last mile has to be something commercial tied. You have to pay the service, you have to pay for the food, or that is something that payment has to facilitate. It's natural.
I feel like the one word has been frequently mentioned, which is like killer app, right? And an application, those kind of things, you really have to make it user-friendly for people to use it on a daily basis. So I want to ask you, Brian, is there something that when you're building Stable, is there anything that you want to talk about what you did for kind of a scaling the business? And is there something that you give up or you think you want to change during the process from the traditional, just the technology of blockchain? Is there something you want to talk about there?
So to get a little more detailed into what Stable does is, as I mentioned, there's a lot of complications using blockchain. So one of the things that we did early on was we identified the volatile gas token that you usually pay your fees in. We removed that. So instead, your fees are denominated and paid in USDT, which obviously at 80% of the market of stable coins, it's relatively accessible on all the exchanges, and so you're able to get access to that token. So I would say we looked at the situation of, I'm sure everyone here at some point invested in crypto, and you probably had a hard wallet at some point or a non-custodial wallet. And there was an oddity where, let's say someone tried getting you into crypto and they would send you some USDT to kind of start you off. You had a bricked wallet effectively. You had to find a way to get, whether you're on mainnet Ethereum or another chain, you had to figure out how to get that token into your wallet to start using and send that money out, which obviously is one of those asterisks that I mentioned earlier. So what we did is if someone sends you 100 USDT, you can then turn around and send out 99.999 USDT, and the gas fees paid in the transfer. So that was a big difference that we made with stables, removing that need for another token that you had to watch the volatility. And I think we're all aware of what happened last week with the markets, where if a CFO is a company is trying to use USDT or USDC or PYUSD to make their payments, and the market goes down. So let's say they bought $1,000 of equivalent of Ethereum, price dropped in half. Their transfers that they need to make became twice as expensive. I would say anyone here who sits in a financial role knows that's not a really good pragmatic way of addressing your business. So again, for us, denominating in stablecoins allows you to not have that volatility. But going a little backwards in time, I would say, we keep mentioning the killer app. I would say the last time we saw this was in the early 90s with PayPal. And I can tell you that PayPal didn't have the same turnout at a conference for people to hear how PayPal worked. The difference now is that the incentives that PayPal had to play in terms of the traditional rails of fintech and payments weren't incentivizing the clients or weren't incentivizing the end users. And there was still a lot of obscurities or opacity in the market of how that works. Stablecoins allow individuals to have access to, let's say, DeFi or other financial tools that normally wouldn't be there. Because in order to use PayPal, you still had, as you were mentioning, had to be banked, and you had to have access to on-ramp, a credit card, which is expensive or may not be expensive in, let's say, a developed economy, but in a more developing economy where they weren't available, they weren't able to have access. So this is, I think, a very good way of leveling the playing field and allowing all individuals to have access to the same tools and mechanisms to make a transfer value.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I agree with that. So that's something that we have talked about in terms of killer app applications. And now we're talking about more on the features of the infrastructure. And obviously, agentic economy requires a really fast speed of transaction. And right now, I think even the institutional clients, they are serving the people trading gold in 24/7 manner, right? And then so I think for blockchain people, for the Web3 people, we have to do something about it. And Mona is really famous for having fast transactions, right? Yeah, Mona has been doing great in terms of providing a really fast transaction for users on a lot of transactions with a parallel manner of recording all this messaging, right? For agentic economy, do you see anything you want to change in terms of those kind of fast payment, or is it fast enough?
Yeah, I can expand a little bit on what we're doing at Monet. So throughput is definitely a really big feature of Monet. As a tech, we definitely pride ourselves on that. But one of the things that, like Eddie mentioned, is the facilitator aspect of needing to settle and verify transactions on-chain when it comes to agentic payments. So Monet has launched its own facilitator over the weekend. You can check it out. It's x402-facilitator.monet.xyz. And this basically allows developers who are building agents or the agents themselves to use Monet to settle and verify transactions on-chain. And then the other thing that I mentioned was that we're also very intentional about building an ecosystem where developers can actually develop these agents with the support that they need. I think a favorite project that I heard over the weekend that came out of the hackathon was a project called Rent a Human, where robots can actually rent humans to do work for them, and you can check it out on Twitter. Extremely dystopian, but this is the kind of thing that's being enabled by agentic commerce today. Not only do you have humans paying other humans, but now you have robots paying humans, robots paying other robots. Any AI LLM out there is like a client, right? So I think we're basically trying to facilitate all of that, not just with the tech, but also with, native primitives, being a facilitator, as well as providing ecosystem support to developers who actually want to build this.
Amazing. Keep it. I think for the next one, you have talked about the fast part, right? Now let's talk about the slow part, the Bitcoin transactions. So obviously, Bitcoin transaction is more known for its safe, secure, but slow. right? I've seen the time where, in the gas pump, just like millions of transactions just not getting through. But obviously, APAC, you're doing something about it, right? And what do you think about this? Like, for a slow transaction, is it good for agentic transactions, or is there anything that you want to talk about APAC?
Yeah, if you don't mind, just let me do a follow-up in regards to what Nellie has been talking about. So I find this fascinating in terms of that new website that you just said, and eventually I heard about that too. So, eventually, like, us as humans, we created AI and then created the agents, and then now the agents are creating a website for themselves to do things that they cannot do it physically. So before that website, I used to do this. I used to say this joke to all of my friends who have set up a Claudebot now called Moldbot or whatever. It has 5 names now already. But basically, I said, like, it's fantastic that you have this amazing assistant, but AI assistant. But can that assistant really go and pick up your dry cleaning from the laundry, right? And of course now we do have the answer, right? So the AI can actually hire a real human to pick up the laundry. So I definitely believe that we have just now finished the full circle when it comes to that. In regards to your next question, so I think it's going to be really interesting to see how these AI agents are actually going to choose which network and which blockchain they will want to work on, right? So how are they going to choose that? Is it basically based on the LLM, all the models and all the education they have received, or is it basically based on all the experience that they have seen? Are they going to really go for the speed of the transactions, or are they going to value the robustness and the security of the blockchain? I don't think that there is a clear answer to that at this point. I think the speed of the blockchain is super important, but also making sure that the blockchain is secure and safe enough is also very important. So I think this is yet to be seen.
Okay, so I actually want to follow up on what you just said. In terms of, when you're building the infrastructure, you have different purposes of building it, right? And you have priorities. Sometimes you focus on high speed, sometimes you focus on the killer app, right? What is the things that you think, when you're building the infrastructure, you guys, you would prioritize when you're building the infrastructure? What's the purpose? What's the main purpose?
Right. I can't say for all. I mean, like, we do payment for years and things, and
I'm working with a lot of partners, big ones as well.
There's a lot of segments of the space, right? So all I can say is, for us, definitely verifiability or per se security, and is probably, I would say, the most important thing.
Security,
verifiability, because this is the assets you're moving, right? So like
security over speed.
In some case, I would say it's really case by case, right? So for example, if this is a ramping, institutional ramping, of course you want security over, like, they don't care if it's like take 10 seconds or an hour. But if you are saying consumer basis use cases, right? So for example, still, buying pizza, or like you just paying at a convenience store, you want it to be 2 seconds. That's something very different, right? So I think both parts, you just have to have it, but the real thing is how you weigh these factors in different scenarios. And then while building infrastructure, a payment infrastructure, on our end, we are having an internal weigh system on this thing. Basically, it's like, if we going for high verifiability use cases, then of course, let's go for full nodes. Let's go for high transaction fees like settlement chains, and then Ethereum whatsoever, even Bitcoins, right? Sometimes, but like, if you want to be more user-friendly, adaptive, making sure everyone can actually use it, sometimes you probably even have to rely on a semi-decentralized way to do it, right? That's the nature of payment business. So yeah. In short, I would just say you just have to balance both, and then you need to have a weigh system inside of a matured payment infrastructure.
Absolutely. Brian, you want to talk about it as well?
I would say, like, the overlap you have to take when you're looking at speed and security, and it's also the accessibility. A good example is like in trying to look at like modern day payments. The adaptation to tap to pay is the fastest adoption of a new form of payment that's happened in the past 50 years. It became a frustration. No one wanted to have change. No one wanted to make change. No one wanted to have to do that record keeping. And so you've seen banks such as JP Morgan adopt or develop their own JPM coin, where while it's extremely centralized, that's the access. So they're able to limit the access, but they understand the speed and security when they need to reduce their overhead cost, improve their auditability. And a lot of what Nellie was talking about in terms of 402, you have Google who rolled out AP2, which is their way of doing authentication, authorization, and authenticity, where they're able to have the same agentic payment model that's been put out. And what that does is allow it becomes something in the back of your mind. I think you guys were talking about earlier where you don't need to have payments be front and center. No one necessarily cares about payments. No one knows how the Visa network works or what the Chase payment tech in the US does. It's rather, everyone wants it done and fast. So when you walk in the store, you want to be able to tap to pay and walk out and you have that confirmation. But the problem there is that they're sacrificing security for speed. And I think that's when you have the ability, because you can still defraud. You can pull someone's numbers off the front of the card and you can still replicate it. So credit cards haven't solved the security aspect of it, but when you're able to use something like a blockchain and have like a, even as basic as a Face ID where you can authenticate and you can't have the authorization, that's where you're able to actually secure a network and have the same speed and security. And so I think there's definitely going to be a shift into that market, and you've seen players, as I mentioned, the JPM, where they have it internally. It's now, how does it become a more decentralized or more accessible product in time?
Yeah, because they are big, right? They have their clients and they can do whatever they want. And also, I think they're doing great because they kind of also fit in the legal regime as well in a very fast manner. So I think that's great of what they're doing, and also advancing the tradition of how we used to do it, and they kind of innovate on a new coin, right? That's innovative. That's great. Okay, so now I'm actually going to ask a question for you guys. Has anyone tried those what are called the Claude bot or the Mold bot in the audience? You have. Who else? You have there. Have they been deleting files on your laptop? No. So I think one of the things that we experience is security issues on those bots, right? That they do things without your permission. And obviously, if they're deleting your X pictures, that's fine. But if they're like paying on your laptop or on your phone or your crypto wallet, that's not fine, right? That's kind of irresponsible. So what are you thinking on this? You think that, the agentic payments with those bots and then without any permission and they can pay. Is there anything you want to touch on this point?
Just real quickly, I would say, looking at the AP2 model, I think people imagine it where you just give access to your entire bank account or your entire wallet. It's really going to be that you're going to be setting up like kind of micro wallets or micro authentications where you basically have the approval. So I think the safety there is like you can allocate that like these payments are only eligible. I think you mentioned food earlier. So you can say like you can do food transactions up to 100 and I don't need to look at it. It's a little bit like everyone's payment systems or accounting systems at their office for expenses. You're able to like book certain things without a receipt. That's effectively, I think, how you can kind of conceptualize this with agentic payments is that you're going to give pre-authorizations for certain amounts and certain destinations or certain vendors or certain times, and that allows you to kind of not worry that your entire wallet's going to be drained. But again, it's user error. If you set it up without that, then that's your responsibility.
Because the friends give me the advice, you should always use a previous laptop, right? Don't use your current one, or don't use the current one with the full permission to your wallet whatsoever. But I think it's just not for individual user, but in terms of like, a massive client space, right? Even like big institutional clients, when they go to custodies and settlements, they also kind of talk about risk, right? And what if something happened? They always use third parties infrastructure. And if something happened, who's going to be responsible for it? And then obviously for you guys doing payments, you'll be dealing with, I don't know, like third parties to work with as well, right? And if, let's say, in the worst scenario, the agent paid, and then the user wasn't aware of what happened. It could be a client, it could be an exchange, right? Who should be responsible for it? Have you guys talked about who should be the risk ownership of these issues? Sorry, I'm asking you the hard questions here. It's like, worst scenario, what's going to
Yeah,
do?
I mean, I'm not sure if you can give you like a 100% straight answer to that, but you know, I think it's again like another situation where technology is a lot more way advanced in terms of the regulations and in terms of like all the guardrails. So. You know, getting back to your point about, you know, the wallets being used in terms of like, okay, I'm going to set up a main wallet, and within the main wallet I will have like a sub wallet where I just say, okay, this is for all my travel expenses. Because how nice it would be that if I could just, you know, tell you know, my digital assistant to book me a flight, you know, from Hong Kong back to Dubai, and then, you know, that agent is only being able to spend the money that's you know, on that allocated account. Now, what happens if the agent figures out a way to get out of that account,
exactly.
right? And then use the main funds, and just decides to you know, book me you know, a first class ticket versus a business class, or even book a jet, right? I mean, that's a great question. I think at the end of the day, like whoever, and that's actually part of the reason that I still have not set up the Moldbot, right? Because I'm kind of a little bit terrified about that, because, you know, at the end of the day, you have to have the right guardrails in regards to setting it up. And so, do you think of every single instance that, you know, the bot can make? Like, let me just give you an example. You said don't set it up on your computer. Right, I agree, right? But it shouldn't be that everyone goes and buys a Mac Mini. As a matter of fact, most of the Mac Minis have been sold out.
Yeah, I know.
Right? But then they say, okay, just, you know, create a sandbox environment on DigitalOcean. Okay, but what happens if the bot figures out and finds another free hosting provider and just, you know, copies itself? Right? So just recently I went to this conference, Satoshi Roundtable, and I was talking with a gentleman. He said, I just set it up before the conference and I literally unplugged my Mac Mini from the power, right? But again, this gives you the question, have you given the prompt, the guardrail for that agent not to move from that actual machine? Yeah. I mean, we don't know. And I think that's like the lines of guardrails and the lines of the security that you need to add to these things. I think it's like so many that we cannot even think of.
So to play devil's advocate real quickly, and to maybe bring the audience back into it, I would say, who here has had credit card or bank fraud? Probably everyone. And what's the wildest thing that was charged to your credit card? I mean, there's usually flights or hotel or like an online subscription. I can happy share, I have a bank account here. I was the largest purchaser of, when I got a credit card hack, was the largest purchaser of baby formula. And with that, it was over and over again. And the transactions that went on were within microseconds. Like trying to deal with Neat, the credit card provider here, there was no fraud detection. They said that there was an OTP sent, it was ignored, and they did it within the same window, and all these things. So when we're talking about authentication or authorization in order to use these agentic payments, we're always worried about like how secure we can make it, but in reality, we exist in a world right now that doesn't have that security and doesn't have that framework in place. So we're very worried about like the bot booking the jet, but I ended up purchasing a lot of baby formula to the point that I had to fill out, like, I had to go to the police office, fill out that I wasn't the importer of it. But I would say that we worry about all these bad things, but we already exist with some pretty bad guardrails in place, or lack of guardrails right now.
Yeah, speaking of these things, right? So I think the most important thing is like all of you should talk about it, definitely 100% agree, right? So, but I think the most important thing is leaving the trails, because we don't know what's going to be the real guardrail solution will be at this point. But AI agent keep, you know, progressing, right? So there's a lot of applications. I think really at this stage is how do we demonstrate the rails, like the you know, like whose fault is it? If you look at the agent case, payment use cases, it could be the agent be hacked. It could be the user get hacked or unauthorized. It could be the merchant who's already a fraud merchant and then getting all these payments differently. Or it could be the settlement network that's going down, that settlement doesn't going right, right? So all these things, you just have to put the blame right correctly. I think that's the most important infrastructure question for the industry, right? So you can't stop the innovation; it will just innovate, and then there's going to be a lot of error cases or fraud cases. Yeah, figure out, but just figure out whose fault is that, and then put that blame. I think this is the same thing with Visa and Master these days, right? If things goes wrong, Visa or Master doesn't really pay, but like they figure whose wrong is it. Is it the merchant? Is it the user? Or is it the the chargeback checkout, right? So it's really depending on this thing, right? Yeah.
I think today's word discussion is very much focused on AI agents, right? And obviously that makes us to think about who can serve the agents the best, because I think it's definitely a growing trend of people using AI agent. Matt, would you agree?
Oh yeah, I mean,
Because you look scared using agents.
I mean, not like on a giant scale numbers, right?
Yeah.
Like if you think about it, like it's interesting, right? If you're interested in that kind of stuff, like your X algorithm is only going to show that. And by the way, like my X algorithm kind of like saved me from the current crypto bear market, because it doesn't now show me all the bad stuff happening around crypto, but just shows me like all the great stuff happening around AI. So, but again, it's just like a small number of people compared to the rest of the world that are actually using it.
And do you think if agents can ever choose a settlement layer, do you think they will use Bitcoin?
I mean, I hope so, right? But again, like I think it's not necessarily a competition. I think they're going to use multiple blockchains.
Okay, multiple. Okay, that sounds complex. Nellie, what do you think? Or EVM maybe, not necessarily happy Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think the jury is definitely still out on that one. I think one interesting point I just wanted to make on the risk aspect of AI agents is that I think in our permissionless system today, whenever a person uses a self-custodial wallet, the risk falls on the user, right? And so I think we probably will see like a little bit of a similar model with agentic payments, whereby the risk will initially be assumed by the person using the agent, because we're like intentionally disintermediating the payment supply chain, where like you're not relying on a JP Morgan or a Visa or a MasterCard anymore. However, you as the user, whether it be like a retail person or a developer using the agent, you're essentially responsible now for the whole payment flow. So I think the jury's still out on risk. It will be very interesting if agents can like eventually be held legally liable for messing up at some point. But then, yeah, like I think that's the slippery slope.
Yeah, I think my question would be like, if the agent can choose, would they choose your layer?
Based on performance
this is a
and
question not just for
ecosystem
me, it's for
support, yes,
all of you guys. Okay, yes, for all of you guys. Would they choose your layer or your product? Or, yeah. And why?
I'd say yeah. Like I think it really depends, but I'd say yes. Given I think if some of the parameters were performance and obviously like network effects, then I'd say yes. But who knows?
Yeah, it is a lot of things I'm excited to. AEON, what do you think? Addy, do you think they will use your payments? Will you support them?
Yeah, well, first of all, we're omni-chain, so whoever got adopted, we'll integrate it and make it to the case, right? We just support those AI agents. That's what we hope for. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think there's a lot of question marks still today, right? Because it seems that every single day, like the next day, there will be like new AI stuff, right? And next day, the AI already hiring humans rather than we use AI nowadays. So who knows? And so let's just put all beside. So my last question to wrap today's panel up is, to put this aside, what do you think is the most fundamental value that you guys have for your product, your layer? What is the one thing, or it doesn't have to be one thing, so it's like, what is the most fundamental value that you provide to the society, I mean, or to the payment, or today's transactions and economy? Give it a bit of thought.
I think like from eventually like we're building on Bitcoin layer 2, right? So from our perspective, eventually we want to see these AI agents to use the network, right?
You do want to see that happening.
I do want to see that happening, but I also believe that, and getting back and just to give you a follow-up on that question, right? Would I prompt my AI agent not to use any algorithmic stablecoins? Yeah, I would, probably, right? Would I instruct the AI agent not to use a certain, blockchain that maybe I don't like? And of course, we're talking about like very skilled prompts here, not everyone is going to do. But I think at some point there's going to be a lot of these AI agents that already have these settings built into it, and then you can just basically choose whichever blockchain you're feeling comfortable with for your agent to act upon, right? And so I think this is the direction that these agents are going to go, and our job as a layer 2 is to build a very, very good layer for these agents to be able to transact on.
Nice.
Thank you. I think I'll just summarize it in three points. So I think one, obviously for performance, Monet enables fast performance today, both from a TPS, latency, and low fees standpoint. The second point, as I mentioned, is that we're already at the forefront of developing these native primitives on our chain. So we launched a facilitator native to X402. We are launching a lot of ecosystem and developer support with hackathons, with go-to-market support. So we're really at the forefront of helping developers. And I think the third point is just around, sorry, I was going to say, yeah, sorry. I think those just the two main points.
Yeah, amazing. Brian?
Sure. I would say in terms of like using our chain, obviously there's a vested interest in building it and getting it launched, that we'd love to have everyone and all products using the chain. But in reality, infrastructure is not sexy. It's not the product that people are thinking about when they're using it. Just like we mentioned, no one knows how the Visa network works. No one knows where the money's going on SWIFT. People really want the end results. They want the money where it is. They want it secure, and they want it done with let's say, an objective fee or understanding what those fees look like. And we believe at Stable that we provided all those things. It's fast, it's inexpensive, and it's secure. So what we hope is that if you're using an agentic model, that model's trained to do just those things: speed, security, and also efficiency with cost. And if the models are looking at the spectrum, you technically wouldn't want to train your model to then have to not look at what's the best rather than to use a preference. So we would actually say that we hope it's used, and that would be based on performance and block production and also transaction time. So similar to Monad, we have like a sub-second finality. We have thousands of transactions per second. But in reality, agentic model, as much as people have started using them, don't care about what we emotionally care about. Rather, they want the performance and they want to execute their task. So we would say, yes, in terms of agentic and individual users, we hope we see the migration there. And we've already started to see that happen since launching in December.
Fascinating, fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, for AEON as omni-chain middleware for agentic commerce, really we want to solve the silo problem in the triangle we talk about. So on the one end you have crypto, you have AI agents, and you have real life use cases. Each of them currently kind of have their own ecosystem for commercial activities, their own characteristics. Really, we want to solve this by providing an interoperable liquidity between each other. So AI agents can reach to real life merchant and then using crypto as payment result, right? So we think that all these things connect together. And our product luckily have a lot of these features and progressing that. Currently we have over 40 million merchants that's supporting all these connected liquidity. And then we're hoping this become the fundamental for the futuristic agentic commerce.
Thank you so much, guys, for your contribution in the payment area and for a lot of work, amazing work that you have done. And I'm sure everybody now know more about their projects, about Stable, Monad, APAC, AEON, and they will be around for a little bit. And if you want to talk to them, I'm sure they're happy to talk to you guys a little bit. Thank you so much, guys, again.